Hello and welcome everyone back to another episode of the BSB Championship on GPBikes. Today we're here for round 3 from a very wet Assen TT circuit here in the Netherlands. So a brilliant racetrack, world renowned really is Assen for the old circuit and the modern circuit. And coming into this round, pace in the dry was actually surprisingly good. I felt pretty comfortable here. Again, this is so far the most Grand Prix like track. Really seemed to suit me, this track, and unfortunately when I saw it was wet I was quite disappointed because I'd not done a single lap in practice or since I've started this league in the wet on this month, so it was a real voyage of unknown. So here we are in qualifying, just coming towards the end of my lap, and yeah, it was a real question mark of how we could do in this round, because after a few restarts and a couple of messed up server settings, it looks like dynamic surface has been turned back on. And for people who aren't in know, usually 99 times out of 100, if the dynamic surface is on, the rain tires clear more water than that's being put down, and you end up this weird dry line which has really high grip, and then you crash really easy on it. So it's something you've probably a lot of people have seen over the years, and it was something that we're all a bit afraid coming into. And you can see as the session goes on, you can just see as I'm coming to my grid now, there's a very stark dry line. And bit of a spoiler, a lot of people have risked intermediates. I've gone on the full wets, not really thinking about it. We've qualified on the middle of the second row, and away we go. I get a good start. Uber, turns out he is on intermediates as he spins up. N-Jerk on pole, also on the intermediates, gets a terrible start, and we get a nice little launch. Just kind of balked by a few others. We actually kind of just sideswipe our good pal there, Bikers. He just comes around the outside of us. I kind of just got balked by a few other people at the start and at the kind of roll the throttle, and that just cost me a couple of positions to chase Black and to Bunta on the satellite Ducati. But big thing early in this race now is just to be steady. A lot of horsepower on these bikes, no traction control. You got to be really silky smooth and have a bit of patience. We have a pretty decent length race here, 15 laps, and it's not far off a 2-minute lap in these conditions, so you need to be just going to work into it. And thankfully we got the clean start. We got away ahead of a few fast boys at the start, and at this point, as the practice went on and into the qualifying, I got a feel for it. But I must admit, in my first lap in practice, I came out just to try and build confidence straight away, and I locked the front literally first hard braking zone. That really knocked my confidence, just because it was a complete straight line crash. What I mean by that, the bike was upright, it got in the brakes and just immediately crashed, and I was thinking, oh no, we're in trouble here. Wigamy battled him in the previous race, Silver Sun pulls a nice little move there again, just showing that confidence in these conditions is key. And he just shows there he's a bit more confident on the front end of his Cheshire Moulding ZX10 and slides up the inside of me and just goes a touch wide, just blocks me off into the following right-hander. So we're just a bit steady at the start, which I think is the best way to be in a conditions race like this, where you're going to come into it. You can just see there along the racing line how much different the middle of the track is, where the bikes have been constantly going over and has dried quite a bit. And the key to know, as you can see now, when the Honda's behind getting in on the action, if you're going along a dry bit of track, as unfortunately in the change directions the ZX10 man does take a small tumble. But as I was saying though, if you can just see where Bunt is there now in the middle of the track, if that starts to stop throwing up this spray, that is basically a dry track. Machado, really aggressive early on. I haven't raced this guy before, I'm not really sure what he's like, but from my opening lap or two there in the wet, he seems really aggressive, and this is the key to this race. That is tire temperatures I'm pointing out there. Optimal 75 degrees, and if you're on the dry part of the track, the wet tires massively overheat, and you'll see a lot of what I'm about to do here. We're just pulling over slightly off the dry patches into the wet part of the track, just to bring temperatures back down. If a wet tire overheats, it basically becomes like chewing gum. You lose all edge grip, you lose dry grip, it spins, it only gets worse and worse. So it's going to be a real management race, this one, and as the race goes on, it's going to dry more, which means the racing will get wider, there'll be less wet patches to kind of keep the tires cool. So watch out for that, the latter part of the race, where we're really struggling to keep temperatures under control. And of course it is faster to be on the dry part of the track, but it just kills your tires. So it's a real kind of juggling part of this race, really, just trying to keep the tire temperatures in the right window, because if they do overheat, they will just come around in you in braking zones, you'll lock the front easier. So there's just so much to this race that has yet to unfold. And then of course you've the intermediate runners later on. This guy in front was really aggressive, and when he slid out in front of me, not one bit surprised. I felt like he was just completely overriding, and just he was very aggressive at the start. In a race that's this long and in the rain, I was thinking like you just want to be smooth and build into it, but unfortunately he just touches a curb with a lot of lean, and around he went. So unfortunately I'm about to make my first mistake of the race again. Just like I mentioned a while ago, my first lap in practice, straight up and down, locked the front, and really disappointed because I've watched it back 20-30 times. I don't see what I did wrong there other than just slightly too much brake pressure, but I know for a fact later in the race I brake harder in there. We lose so much time, you can't hard reset because there's bikes everywhere. We actually end up getting a time cut penalty as well because we went across the gravel, and we dropped down as far as P8 after being up battling for the podium position. So that was really unfortunate in a race where it's all about keeping clean, and there's that Machado guy again and Uber having a collision at turn 1. So we've instantly gained back 2 positions up to P6, and our long time battling buddy of the championship, Luke Rock on the FHO BMW, is up next. So he's someone at the moment now looks to potentially be having some tyre troubles, because we do kind of roll up to him and then we get out here much better again. He seems to be sticking to the dry line, so if maybe at this point in the race if he's on inters, I don't know, but we just double shift here accidentally and that kills my drive, and then the BMW comes back at me. So again, making difficult work of this already difficult race so far. Thankfully that puts us back up into what is now P5 after coming off from some of the good positions. So still a long way left in this race, and I was thinking to myself now we just need to kind of push on, keep consistent, not make any more mistakes. Others will make mistakes. It's one of those races where you can bank on people crashing, just like this. Yellow flag into final chicane, and unfortunately it's Lucas Brown who has tipped off. I'm sure we might see him later as his pace is pretty good, but we're still just trying to keep the tyres cool. As you can see, we're moving across. Jumping out to lap 11, a big gap in front of us was Bunta. We've managed to pick away at him and close him down. I think for a portion of the race there, I think we were the fastest guys on the track, because we're actually basically collectively going forward and catching the 3 guys in front after we caught, or after we passed the crashing Lucas Brown. So I was trying to be silky smooth, trying to keep myself on the wet patches for as much as possible. As you can see out of here, Bunta using probably a bit too much of the dry part of the track, maybe just overheating his tyres. He was also on wets, it turned out. We have caught up to him quite a bit, and I think that this is a podium position here, and you can just see Foxer slightly up the road there, so he's not a million miles away. There's a lap rider as well in contention there, so that isn't a little race lead, unfortunately. We've looked into the right hander on Bunta, but just not close enough yet, and already after having a front end crash in this race, it's not going to be done on the brakes. I was pretty timid all race on the brakes because of that, because I just felt no matter what I did I would lock the front, so I had to leave quite a bit of margin. That probably was the reason why in the start of the race the Kawasaki Wigame managed to pass me so easily. Just I couldn't really confidently punch the brakes in as the way I wanted to, and I think a lot of my time is through this fast corners, the high speed stuff. Someone off there behind the green flag, but we're really kind of trying to build up here now, just trying to set a move up on Bunta. But again, Ducati on Ducati is never easy, and he's seemingly just doing enough at the moment. And if I had a bit more confidence, I could probably maybe have a look in here. He does defend it a bit into the final chicane, and you can see he actually pulls away on the brake, so must be something setting related, as the back marker in front just tips off as we go through the chicane. And I actually get a little upset there. You can see the bike gets a little out of shape. Green flag in for him behind, but we're just trying to now make an opportunity to get up onto, because I think we pulled in about 8 seconds in about 9 or 10 laps, so we had decent pace over him. And when we caught him, I kind of knew this was happening, because I knew from the very first lap in practice that I couldn't brake how I wanted in the rain, which is quite unfortunate, because I usually do like the rain. I usually go pretty well in the rain, but today just a lack of practice, and to be honest, the lack of track time on this bike in the rain, it probably wasn't the best really for me to come at this time, because I felt like later in the championship, if we had some wet races, I felt like maybe they'd be the races I could probably excel at. But we do finally get a good exit out of the tight left-hander, get a good run on Bunta. We just keep close from there, kind of stop and being able to use all the track. We get a little cut back on the left, and we just release the brake and just run it in. I have quite a lot of confidence in the way I can turn this bike. Fortunately at the moment, not stopping it, but I could just turn basically using more track. And again, I knew I was on the wetter part of the track, which means my temperatures would just be a bit more in line with what I'd need. So at this point now, we have 3 and a bit laps left, and I'm thinking Foxer is definitely a target I could catch, because throughout the race I didn't feel like I was overriding, because I mentioned at the start there, a few people looked like they were taking liberties in these conditions, which I really don't think is something you can do for a long race. You can maybe do it for a lap, and that's how some guys qualified so fast and stuff, but I think for a whole race it's nearly impossible really to push on and kind of risk and push the limit. So I was just trying to ride at 98-97% and just ride as fast as I could within myself without taking too many silly risks. And that's why the crash on lap 3 in there felt so annoying, because I didn't feel like I was near the limit. I wasn't pushing on, I wasn't trying to pass someone, just locked so easily. It was a bit disappointing really overall. But in turn 1, bunted the first time I'd say in a long time, had someone in front of me at the braking zone, goes a touch deep, we get a bit of a spooked and go touch wide, and unfortunately through the left, yeah, just what I've been saying, tyre temperatures up to 110 there when I crashed. So I'd imagine I had maybe 5% too much throttle with 2 degrees too much lean through that corner from previous laps. But yeah, that was the podium gone unfortunately, which was a real shame because we had worked so hard at getting back through. We did such good consistent speed to catch back up to the other Ducati, and then to throw it away after passing him only 30 seconds earlier was pretty disappointing. But we're on the last lap now. P5 and P6 are Lucas Brown and Uber, both on intermediate tyres, and you're about to see in a couple of corners here what the difference between a drying track wet versus a drying track intermediate is. After all this time, I still don't know if I had to do this race again back. Would I go intermediates or would I go wets? Because there's such a stark kind of black and white between the tyres. I just don't know what the right tyre would be on still to this day, even after being in this race and watching back lows and editing this. They come at us really hard and really fast at the end. I think it's all about being clean and getting away at the start, because I think if you got away at the start, as Lucas just has so much more speed, I spin the rear up, he goes around the outside, does a small bit of contact. Unfortunately he does throw up the hand. Not an issue there, Lucas. The whole issue there with that one is just simply on a racetrack, differential speed is the most dangerous thing you can have, and there's someone on a better tyre for conditions and you're just so much faster. I have a bit of a moment, complete racing instinct, but like I was saying, it's just, I'd say half the race it's better to be on the wet tyres, and the second half is better to be on the intermediates maybe. But it's just all, if you get away with clean like Chase and Foxer did, I think the wets are probably the better tyre. If you can stay in the race at the start, I'd say the tyres that the two boys are on in the intermediates and a few others on probably are faster for maybe overall race time. So into the chicane I should say, I try to go defensive, don't really have anything for Uber. He goes around the outside, gets it done. Unfortunately on chicane just kind of gets a bit clunky. Thankfully get it back around, but we end up actually dropping back to 6th because of that time penalty from the crash. But thanks to some other decisions and the time penalty being taken off for me crashing, we end up finishing 4th on the road. Unfortunately this week we don't have the fancy graphics. Unfortunately they've just taken too long to make, so I've had to skip this week, and people want to see the full results, and to do the full results it would take multiple pages and stuff like that. So unfortunately at the moment that's not something that's feasible with time. Chase Black gets the first win of the season. Yamaha again on top of 1-2. Ducati 3-4 looks like we're doing a really good job, but I really feel there's not been a race yet that I've actually come off really happy with. Donington felt like I was on the wrong tyre, was decent on pace, but I felt like I was still missing something. In Silverstone I really kind of got fortunate from Triton taking a bunt and kind of getting my team running out of fuel, and that's why I win at getting a podium. It wasn't really a good race for me. And here then again today, had pace in the rain, unfortunately a couple of mistakes, and that cost me. We ended up getting other people's penalties, put us back up to 4th. But again, not a race that I can be fully kind of confident about. I think if it's dry, I have a lot better chance of being actually on the podium, and being on the podium for my race pace, not just kind of other people's luck. But the top 5, Uber then falls in behind me. Lucas Brown, I think maybe some other penalties is +6. I'm not really sure what they're for. Machado on the Honda after a very eventful race ends up in P7. Biker rounds off the top 8. Luke Rock, who I'm not really sure what tyre he was on. I still haven't found out what tyre, because at the start when I passed him he did seem to be really struggling. But again, in this part in the race there were so many different segments of people being on the wrong tyre at the right time, and all, there was just such a luck factor I felt to this race. And Wigame then the Indonesian on the ZX10 rounding out the top 10. So a quick look now at the championship standings will reveal that Foxer has taken a nice little lead early on in this championship, 3 rounds in of 8, and he's already got a nice little lead there over Uber. And then I'm 3rd again. Surviving is the word. I feel like Chase Black, Bunta, Enjerk, Molina, all them riding behind me have probably showed better speed. I've just been probably more consistent, stayed out of trouble, and probably not overridden, where a few other people have maybe just made a few mistakes when they came to the races. So as the first 3 races are now done. They're probably the 3 strong tracks on the calendar for me, in all honesty. We go into now the real nitty gritty British tracks, your Oldham Parks, your Truxtons, your Knockhills, the sort of races where I feel it could be a bit of a struggle and it could be quite hard to get a good result, but it's all what we signed up for. It's a part of the championship. It'll be something different. It'll be probably fun and entertaining to watch, but yeah, that's all for today. Hope you have enjoyed. Round 3 was quite a bit of fun, even though I was left feeling a little bit frustrated after it all, but looking back, it was a real fun one. I hope it was as fun and enjoyable to watch back. So I'll leave there. Hope to see you all again in the future for a video on GP bikes. Thanks for watching. Slán go fóill.